Let's continue with our study on perception, sanya, perception, that is in the chapter 17, chapter 4, 17.4. This is the volume, in case you're not sure. Sutta Discovery, volume 17. And we continue page 119. 119. Right, so we're talking about the five decades. They are formed, right? Because they are formed, we experience feeling because of the physical nature of our body. And what do we feel? We feel pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neutral feelings, three kinds. Huh? Now these are very subjective experiences, what we define as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. The question now is, how do we decide what is pleasant, what is unpleasant, what is neutral? It's called perception. Right? We perceive something as pleasant, we perceive something as unpleasant, we perceive something as neutral. So this perception, a simple way of understanding perception is to take it as a kind of recognition, to recognize an experience. In other words, we must have experienced this thing before in order for us to make sense of it now. So, how do we make sense of things? Through consciousness, which is the last of the five aggregates. So, when we sense something through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and of course the sixth one is the mind, then we have a sort of a record of this experience. And when it happens again, we decide accordingly whether we like it or we don't like it. Generally, we tend to like it if we recognize this experience as a sort of connection or repetition of something in the past, which is also pleasant. Right? So if you, let's say you met someone, let's say you have come to this talk before and you hear this very nice talk by a certain teacher. Next time you see this teacher, your perception would be, it's going to give a nice talk. On the other hand, if you, let's say you're very experienced with a certain speaker and you find maybe he puts you to sleep, you probably think on the next time that he also is going to give a bad talk. So that's how we generally perceive people. Yeah? Of course, there are problems here, it's obvious. Now, the third experience, neutral feeling, is something which we are unable to relate to or connect with. In other words, we do not have that experience in the past, so we cannot say we like it or don't like it. We ignore it. Yeah? So these three things, they are important because how we deal with them is going to decide whether we strengthen the latent tendencies or not. Latent tendencies are bad habits, if you like, which sink down deep into our unconscious. So in other words, every time you like something, you say, oh, I like this teacher, or I like this experience, or I like this object. When you go shopping, you are likely to feel a desire for it again. By the same token, if you have a negative emotion towards something, it's going to happen again. When you get angry, the chances are, the likelihood is you're going to get angry again. And so, in other words, in the first case, you will reinforce the latent tendency of craving, craving, desire. In the second instance, where you show ill will, you reinforce the latent tendency of ill will. Now, the third case is very interesting. If you ignore something, you reinforce the latent tendency of ignorance. So these are the three roots: greed, hatred, delusion. So the way out now is, what do we do? How do we prevent this latent tendencies from arising? There are many methods. I think for lay people, in fact for most practitioners, the simplest method is to reflect on impermanence. So when you see something as pleasant, reflect on it as impermanent. You experience it joyfully, you like it, but you accept the fact it's going to pass away. So it's a win-win situation. So as Buddhists, we can enjoy good food, we can enjoy a beautiful sunset, we like nice smelling incense, we like nice chanting, and a pleasant feeling of atmosphere for a cool feeling for meditation and so on, right? But we also understand they're impermanent. So that way, although we feel a good feeling, there's no desire, no attachment. So, pleasurable feeling is fine. It's the desire, attachment to it, which is not fine. Now what about negative reaction? Again, anger arises, reflect on it as impermanent, it will go away, right? Of course, anger is negative, but when you reflect on it as impermanent, it goes away, it's positive. Then you have this neutral feeling, that's something you are not able to put your finger on because you have not experienced it before. So you tend to simply ignore it. But if you ignore it, ignorance is doing the force. So here again, if a neutral feeling arises, a certain sensation of neither pleasant nor unpleasant, this is impermanent. Impermanent. For example, you feel bored, right? About something, right? You just say this is impermanent, reflect on it as impermanent. So that's the simple practice, key practice, which can lead to streamlining if you sustain it. So this is a bit of summary. Then let's go a little deeper today. I've drawn a simple diagram on the board, familiar perception diagram. Let's see, how does perception arise according to the Madhupindika Sutta. So here you can see the perceptual process on page 8, section 8, sorry, page 121, 121. The details are given there. I'm going to explain in a simplified way. You can see this perception diagram. It is also, in fact, summary of the Buddhist theory of knowledge, how knowledge arises, if you like. Now, you have set faculty, that means eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Choose any one here. Let's say the eye, and then here you have sense object, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, thoughts. Right? So since you choose the eye here, we can here put a visual object. So the eye sees a visual object, and there is attention. This is the mind. Okay? There is attention. So this is called the triangle of experience. So once these three come together, it is called contact, or to be more exact, sense contact. Sense contact. Yeah? Or in Pali, passa. So the sense contact in everyday language is simply sense stimulus, if you like. Yes? For example, in this case, it would be seeing. So you have here eye, form, seeing. It's another way of looking at it. Yeah? Now it doesn't stop here. What you see, you tend to evaluate, you tend to recognize as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Feeling arises on account of that kind of evaluation, right? So this whole thing is perception. Okay? Perception, feeling. In meditation, we are constantly trained and reminded to not to go beyond this level. Whatever you feel, just feel it, take it like that. Okay? The modern Vipassana tradition tells us to label it. Labeling is quite a novel practice. It's based on some traditional, simpler traditional teaching. But in the suttas, it's never mentioned you've got to label it in a very specific way. The modern method is the Vipassana method, they label it quite regularly, for example, sound like that. Well, if it works, you use it. Whereas the false method they try to be closer to the Sutta tradition. So if you do need to label, just label a couple of times, not too many times, because we do not want the labeling to intrude into our meditation. So we can, suppose you hear a distracting sound, you just say sound, and then you let it go. Right? In fact, you don't have to use the word sound. You can use loving kindness in your life to push this distraction away. In fact, any kind of positive thought, for example, impermanence. This is impermanent, right? Also can. Right? So the forest method is very versatile in that sense. Or you can do something very simple without actually saying any word, just gently smiling. You'll be surprised, in meditation, smiling is a very big act. You have this warm feeling, this expansive feeling, this peaceful feeling, happy feeling. And when you smile, you will naturally also feel good and happy, and the distraction will gently go away. Of course, you've got to focus too. Right? So, it is okay to feel, provided you know how to deal with it. So, this is a training you must remember. That is why it's good to go for proper meditation classes, especially where you are taught this basic idea of dealing with the distractions. Yeah? I don't normally recommend chanting or using sound because then it is the sound that you are focused on, and when there's no sound, you might not feel focused. So if you do use sound, you must be willing to let go of the sound once you feel peaceful. Or if the sound is no more there, you feel even more peaceful, then it's okay. Right? So in other words, if you are attached to the sound, then you cling to it, right? There is craving and then clinging. Clinging means once you have it, you do not want to let go of it. Then you won't be able to progress. Here you have craving and then clinging and so on, and suffering at the bottom. So we do not want that. You won't be meditating with that. So we try to stop here, just reflect on the feeling, and then let it go. Okay? So this is one how we look at perception in terms of meditation. So another way of looking at this is if you do not let go of the craving, especially with a thought, what happens next is mental proliferation. Page 122. Now there's a diagram on page 122. You see a very similar structure there, explaining what happens if you think too much. Perception by way of thinking. Now there is sense consciousness right at the top there, attention. And then you have sense impression. This is to sense contact. And then feeling arises. And then perception, where you recognize this feeling, you like it, don't like it, and so on. Then you start thinking about it. Oh, I remember this one, I remember that one. And then one thing leads to another. This is very common in a beginner's meditator, a new meditator. Once you start thinking, lots of thoughts start coming in. That's called mental proliferation. So once you notice your mind being flooded by such thoughts, you have to let go of those thoughts. Let the thoughts come, let the thoughts go, but don't let the thoughts stay. So the next section on page 123, you see all those, what I've mentioned. This is the source. So suppose you want to know where in the sutta is the reference to this, what I've said. It is in Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 18, section 16. Right? Saw that. Right? The Pali was also there. Now let's go a little deeper. Let's look at what Ajahn Analayo has to say about what we have just said, that is, what happens if we do not hold back the mind. what we do not want to happen is the mind starts going on autopilot. We want to take charge again of the flight, so to speak. Okay, this is what Achananda says. The crucial stage in this sequence where the subjective bias can set in and distort the perceptual process occurs with the initial appraisal of feeling and cognition, sanya. Okay, uses the word cognition for sanya, or perception. Initial distortions of the sense data arising at this stage will receive further reinforcement by thinking and by conceptual proliferation. Simple word, ideas. Once the stage of conceptual proliferation is reached, the cause is set. In other words, you are caught up with thinking. The proliferations are projected back onto the sense data, and the mind continues proliferating by interpreting experience in line with the original bias cognition. The stages of cognition and initial conceptual reaction are therefore decisive aspects of this conditioned sequence. Let me simplify this. Let's say you're meditating, and then you are doing loving kindness, let's say. You're saying, you will be well and happy on these feelings, at this stage. And then the memory comes back, Then you think about this, and you hold on to this idea. And what you do is you use this idea, you start projecting it onto whatever you are experiencing. So you're no more experiencing what's out there. So if you're doing breath meditation, if the thoughts come to you and you think of those ideas, memories, some past thoughts, so you are transferring that idea to the covering the thought, the idea of the breath. So the breath is no more there. You are instead just thinking of that memory in the past. So you lose contact with the present object, the breath, in other words. So that's what we do not want to happen in meditation. So if this kind of habit goes on, then we become suffering arises. We are not able to deal with what we call the pain and negative states before us. In fact, if we do not train ourselves to deal with all these negative perceptions, three kinds of influxes will trouble us. So these are the three problems or three defilements that cause us to be caught up in samsara. This is on page 124. They are called, here I've used the word kenka, this is the old translation. Now I've used the word influx or influxes. The Pali word is asava. Asava has the sense of fermenting, rotting, something that, something you keep food too long, it rots. So all these ideas we have, it rots and it causes us suffering. They're called influxes because they flow through our senses. That's how we get these negative experiences through our six senses, five senses plus the mind, thinking. Instead of watching them, letting them go, we create more ideas through these experiences. So we form a lot of these influxes to sense desire, kamasava. Can you see that, number one, the kanka or the influx of sense desire. Here, in other words, we forget that the senses are all passing and impermanent, so we tend to get caught up with the idea that, oh, this is a very nice thing, I want to have this. But beauty is only a perceived thing and it doesn't last very long. Number two, the canker or reflux of existence, bhavasava. Here the idea to be this, to be that, to become famous, become rich, become powerful, be recognized by others, things like that on a simple level. On a higher level, you want it on a more permanent basis. You're born in a higher state, formless world, and so on. Sometimes people meditate for the wrong reason. They meditate and say, oh, I want to get into deep jhana, get superpowers, or I want to have a happy rebirth. So those are they come under this category. Yeah? So in a sense, as Buddhists, we try not to have any aim in meditation. Because if you have an aim in meditation, then you're thinking. Of course, when we're talking about meditation, we can say, yes, the purpose of meditation is to free the mind, is to be happy. But when you're meditating, you can't be thinking like that anymore. You just meditate, let go. Right? Just like when you're driving a car, you don't think of all the instructions you have learned. They must be natural. Okay? Now the third canker is wrong view. Notice the word there is simply dittasa, ditti asa. In a sense, all views are wrong. In a sense. Why do I say that? The word view means a way of looking at something. Let's say you have a mountain and you have people stationed at the four main directions, north, east, south, west. Each person has a view of the mountain. And all of them claim that their view of the mountain is right. But the irony is they are all right actually, they are all correct actually. But when any one of them say, only my view is the right view, they will know it's ridiculous. Actually all of them are right. But all of them only have a partial view. This is the very apt analogy, a simile or parable. We all, at the early stages of our Buddhist training, we have views of the Dharma. Yeah, of course, we're all right. But my view differs from your view. But both of us are right in a sense, at that level of development. But to say I am the only one who is right, then of course there will be a problem, at that stage. So this is where views are like rungs of a ladder. You use them to step higher, higher. When you want to go up, you must lift your step from the lower rung. And you go up like that. And once you're up there, you don't bother about the rungs anymore. You let go of the views. Now I've written a whole paper on this called The Notion of Ditti, which is one of the more important papers I've written. It's available online. The Notion of Ditti. Yeah? I think it's not mistaken, it's 48.1, I think. SD 48.1, which you should read. The purpose of meditation is to let go of all views. Have no views. It's not easy, of course, but it's possible. For example, when you are meditating and you are watching the breath and you are at peace with the breath, and you feel so peaceful, you don't need to use any words. At that moment, you have no views. On a simple level, not enlightened level yet, but a simple level, you have no views. And when you have no views, you feel very happy. When joy arises, there are no views. If you have views, there will be no joy. This is another interesting fact, which you don't often hear the teachers telling you. Because views are thoughts. Once you let go of all the views, only joy is left. In a sense, when you begin your meditation, you're watching breath, it's a view. Okay, you say in, out, count the breath, long breath, short breath. You're still views. Then you let go of all the words, and you are focused. You become one with the breath, so to speak. You feel joyful. No more views. It's joyful to let go of views, in other words. Yeah? So this is, sometimes you listen to Dharma speakers, you can notice that at certain points, if you watch very carefully, when they express something, they can come to a state where they can be very joyful in saying those things. Because what they say and an idea, they're not separated. They feel what they say and they're very joyful about that, what they say. And so they feel joyful. In other words, they are not expressing an opinion anymore, an idea anymore. They're just showing you their joy, their peace. That's one way. Another one is you as the listener, as an audience, you're listening to this Dharma speaker, And then you say, oh yes, this is an interesting idea. And then you think about it. And then after that, you let go of this idea, you say, oh, this is wonderful. When you say this is wonderful, what does it mean? You have let go of that idea already. Now when that happens, you feel joy at that moment. But these moments are very subtle, very quick, So if you can notice this, then you begin to understand what it means to let go of views. Yeah? Of course, the speaker may be talking something else, totally unrelated to how you react to it. And this is the wonderful thing about Dhamma talks, You have the Dhamma speaker talking something, but there are 100 listeners, 100 mental processes going on. They all need not reflect exactly what the speaker is talking. For that matter, the speaker could be a very foolish speaker, because not done very well, just talk off the cuff, so to speak. But the listeners reflect, say, oh yes, there is something interesting what this person says. In other words, the person has taken the teaching to be above the teacher. So he reflects on this and says, oh, this is wonderful. So this joy can be got anywhere. Now one reason this is possible because this listener does not perceive the speaker in any way. In terms of status, power, beauty, whatever. We don't measure the speaker. He listens to the Dharma. So this is one way of looking at not putting the teacher above the teaching. You listen to the Dharma and try to understand it. So this is another beautiful way of talking about how to let go of perception. And just directly experience joy in listening, for example. Otherwise, views take over, and views are thoughts, there goes our joy. So from there, you can begin to understand how to be happy. Right? That is why, nowadays I like to tell people, the simple thing, the simplest teaching in Buddhism is joy. Learn to cultivate joy. And how do you cultivate joy? By telling yourself, you have to be joyful, using loving kindness, for example. Being happy is a habit. You can be happy. Right? Another way you can also say, to be happy is to love, to show love. Of course, love is such a big word that here when you say love, you understand it to be loving kindness. Right? Recently, there was someone sent me a YouTube video. The speaker, quite a learned speaker, he's probably one of those people very steep in Western religions, Judeo-Christian tradition, and also dabbles in Buddhism. He knows all the Pali terms, he knows the metta, he knows all the metta, mudita, karuna, upekkha, or metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, things like that. And he's saying, the title of his talk is What the Buddha Did Not Know. He says the Buddha does not really know what love is, the way the Western religions know. Of course, his idea of love is measuring against Western idea of love. He says in the Western idea of love, especially the Judeo-Christian idea of love, is you connect with people. There is this I-thou kind of relationship. So I am seen and also seeing at the same time. Very nice words. But you understand the nature of perception and all these teachings of the Buddha and the sutras, seeing and be seen are all perceptions. And the point here, what he's trying to say is very interesting. What he's saying is, when we're with people, we have to protect them. We have to be present with them. You notice sometimes Buddhist speakers, they stand in front of a big crowd, especially a big crowd, they don't have eye contact, they don't look at you. You don't exist. They just look either through you or they look up in the air or somewhere else. You find there's no connection with them. It's not a living speaker. So you find you go back empty, So what this person is trying to say, when you speak Dharma, the crowd, the listener must feel it as fast as possible. If not now, maybe later. Maybe later the person will say, oh yeah, I remember I heard the speaker said this, I see the connection now. That is why it's better to inspire people with suttas, so that they go back, they get inspired and say, oh yes, Buddha says so. rather than this management guru said this. Of course, it's okay to quote other people in management and science and so on, but we must always relate it back to the suttas. Otherwise, it's a science talk, it's a management talk. So coming back to this idea of love, he says the Buddha does not know love. I beg to differ because this person, very wonderful speaker, but I don't think we gone deep enough into the suttas. For example, when the Buddha says, Ananda said that the spiritual friendship is half the holy life. Right? One day, Ananda, very inspired, goes to the Buddha, Ananda is only a strict winner. So he tells the Buddha, I have this thought, spiritual friendship is half the holy life. Now he said that because he was thinking that, the first half is our own personal effort. We must make our own personal effort. The other half, we get admonitions, teachings, guidance through spiritual friendship. The Buddha says, no, Ananda, the holy life, everything is spiritual friendship. The spiritual friendship is the whole of the holy life. The whole of Buddhist training is spiritual friendship. Spiritual friendship, kalyana mittata. Spiritual friend, kalyana mitta. Kalyana means good, spiritual. Mitta means friend. From mitta, you get the word metta, related. So a friend, in other words, has loving kindness. Loving kindness, Buddhist love, is to unconditionally accept the other person. We do not try to perceive this person in terms of status, power, wealth, etc. We accept this person as he is. This is the Buddhist concept of love. So here the Buddha says the whole of Buddhist training is love. What does this mean? What is Buddhist training, first of all? Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Moral training, Sila Sikha, training moral virtue. Samadhi Sikha, mental training if you like, training in mental concentration, meditation training. Panya Sikha, training in wisdom. How does love fit in? When we talk about moral virtue, number one, you need loving kindness in order to practice the precepts, moral virtue. Number two, you must have some love for yourself. Because moral virtue deals with body and speech, your body, your speech. So you have to love, which includes respect for this body and speech. That's what the 5 precepts are about. Why? Because these 5 precepts humanize us. They keep us on the human level. So love is what keeps us naturally keeping the precepts. To love our body and our speech. And by the same token, we should love and respect the body and speech of others in a spiritual way. Now, so your loving kindness is very much easier to keep the precepts. With loving kindness, you don't kill. With loving kindness, you won't steal. You won't commit sexual misconduct. You won't lie. You won't get drunk. Mental training also needs loving kindness. If your mind is full of negative states, especially anger and hate, you find you can't meditate. So you need loving kindness. Loving kindness is self-acceptance. Only when you understand the nature of self, can you let go of the self. That's one way of looking at it. And when you understand how this loving kindness functions, by learning to accept self and other unconditionally, wisdom arises. So in a sense, in Buddhism, we do have the teaching of I and Thou, but we do not want to concretize it the way, for example, Martin Buber did. This person was speaking highly of one of those Christian theologians who talk in terms of a mystical experience of God. Here, I notice this is where the Western mysticism, Christian mysticism especially, and Chinese religion tend to be very close. They are both word-based, letter-based. The Chinese language is such that each character is pregnant with meaning. For example, the Chinese character, the word "sen" or "for," and you paste it on the wall, that's Buddha about it. And they actually believe the spirit is there. I'm oversimplifying, but that's the general folk belief. When this God-believing writer or mystic writings, they write all these beautiful experiences. People read it, they say, wow, this is beautiful. Again, they are judging from the words. I'm not saying the words are bad. I'm sure if I read those words, I feel good too. But let me tell you stage by stage what I mean. Take, for example, the Christian mystics like Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, and so on. Now, these people, these Western saints, experience a very powerful and deep level of meditation, to use a simple word. Now, the interesting point here is, what did they experience? The Christians have a lot of problem trying to explain what did they experience. For example, St. John of the Cross went into a state where he said he felt as if he was abandoned by God. He called it a dark night of the soul. He was totally lost, no more experience of the self, and so on. Now, if you're a Buddhist meditator and you understand the nature of jhana, you say, wow, this person actually is talking about jhana. But because they don't have that vocabulary, and they have the God idea, they have the soul idea, it's very difficult for them to explain this, but they cannot deny the experience. So there's this big conflict. But now there are more open-minded Christian mystics who say, well, what's wrong with accepting it as jhana, you know? There's no label to it, we can call it anything, right? So this is where, when it comes to meditation, you'll find there's this common language of spirituality beyond the word of the religion, the written word. So in Buddhist meditation, similarly, the written word is simply a guidebook. For example, if you're a driver, you don't worship the driving manual, you know? Or you don't chant the driving manual. You study it, you practice it, you learn it, next thing you must know how to drive. Once you know how to drive, you don't need those manuals anymore. Then you enjoy the drive. You feel good, happy, you can go anywhere you want. So same thing, in meditation, you go to these deep experiences beyond words. They're joyful, they energize you, they strengthen you in face of any problems. You feel happy and you can really communicate with people who have experienced a sort of experience. But there's something else I must tell you. The higher you go, the more refined the suffering becomes. You begin to feel sad, agonized, when you see people not having that level, or people speaking against that level, or people not understanding that kind of teaching. That word is called udacha, restlessness. Yeah? Of course, you don't need to reach high levels to feel that. Oh, this is a kind of perception also, by the way. You perceive, oh, people are not practicing the Dharma, they're just talking, you know, through their head or whatever, and you feel restless about this. Why can't they meditate? Why can't they, stop being superstitious? So you feel restless. Even if you're let's just say you're an informed Buddhist, even if you're not a meditator but learned in the suttas, you find, oh, these people are not practicing the real thing. You feel a sense of loss. That's what udacha. So this is a very powerful feeling, you know, wanting to change things. And this is what pushes people sometimes to reform, to make changes to the religion. And this udacha is so powerful, it goes right up to just before arahathood, even a non-returner has it. In fact, if the meditator is not able to get rid of udacha, he will not attain arahathood, he will attain non-returner. Whereas in the case of the arahat, he has let go of all this. So it's okay to feel sad for the Dharma, but we're not arahats yet. But better than that is to act on it, whatever we can do. This, of course, our own perception. We see things, we feel things get better, And we try our best to do it. But like I said, you need to have joy in order to strengthen yourself so that this restlessness, this unsatisfactoriness you see around you does not trouble or impede you. So in a good Buddhist, there is always this struggle, and we must not be afraid of this struggle. Let's say you're a meditator. It could be any one of us here. You try to meditate and then you wish you could attain certain wonderful, peaceful level. You hear a lot of people talking about it, teachers talking about it, but you feel that you can't attain that level. You feel so frustrated. Why do you feel frustrated? Because your perception is that, oh, I must be like that. You're measuring yourself against another person. That's called mana. Mana means measuring, conceit, right? This is quite mild in this case. Because you measure yourself with others, you find the measuring causes you to be troubled. Because you're different from other people. Maybe you might not be able to get any jhana in this life. That's fine, no problem. You know, some people like to make a big deal of it. They say, oh, some people never get jhana in this life. Oh, you feel like you'll be consigned to hell. But that's not the point, you know. How do we know people are able to attain jhana in this life or not? This life is not over yet. You just meditate. And then when you look back, you say, oh, actually I got jhana already. Now, even if you didn't get jhana, doesn't mean you won't get enlightened. You know? Being a streamer, one sutana, you don't need jhana. Non-returner, arahant, you need jhana. Because you must overcome self-desire. So this is where it's good to understand the two attitudes towards meditation. Right? Sometimes you go, meditation has become very fashionable now, you know, in Singapore. People sometimes ask you how many hours you meditate, how long you meditate, or they don't even dare to ask you what level that you reach. Ajahn Chah gave a very nice answer. He gave an answer in Thai. He says, it's none of your business. I think it's a good answer. If the point is, if someone tells you I'm an arahant, wow, you know, and you say, yeah, my teacher is an arahant, so what does it do to you? You might feel so proud and conceited, and it affects your practice. And the teacher can be mistaken, by the way. So it doesn't really matter. Anyway, my point is this: we've got to have two understanding of meditation helps. No? The first is a traditional understanding that meditation is there for awakening in this life itself. That should be the monk's perception, if you like. To be a monk, nun means you dedicate your life to meditation, keeping the monastic rules, getting jhana, becoming arahant, non-returner at least, as far as possible. Someday people also might do that. It's not easy. You need to spend hours of meditation. You need many hours of meditation. The second kind of meditation is the one we all usually do when we go for courses. What I mean is, I'm not talking about those executive meditation courses, and those are just fundraising affairs. We're talking about where you really try your best to meditate, you go alone. Or even if you go as well, but after that you sit on separate cushion. There are no double cushions. The second kind of meditation you practice for your mental health, for your present mental health. In a sense, that's good enough. In a sense. But in so doing, you find there are many other benefits of this kind of meditation. Meditation must be approached humbly, with respect. It's not a fashionable thing to compare one another. You sit there. Why do we sit? So that our ego is shorter, you know. You stand up, wow, big eye, you sit down, shorter. Yeah? And then you will let go of the eye. The more of the eye you let go, the more you can focus. But the eye is what? Views. It is preventing you from being focused. All this perception. I am this, I am that, I'm going to attain this, I'm going to attain that, I have right views. That is a view already. So, we just meditate Loving kindness, breath, we feel happy. For lay people, good enough. You go back to your work, you can function well, you bring happiness to other people. You have problems, you use breath meditation, you have peace with yourself, that's good. So if you live habitually like this as a lay person, and you reflect on impermanence, when the last moment comes, you will definitely become a stream winner. It is like that, then you're on the way already. This is the purpose driven to this. Okay? So, if you don't, then what happens? Then you fall below the human plane, page 125. You see, you have the hells, animal kingdom, the ghost world, human world, heavenly world. Okay, the first three are the subhuman planes, hells, animal kingdom, ghost world, and they add one more on the asura world. These are the four subhuman planes. Now all this depends a lot on how we perceive things in our daily life. For example, if we keep on seeing things, only perceiving, recognizing things in terms of sensual desire, we just want creature comfort, no wisdom, then we have a human body. What kind of mind is that? What kind of mind? No wisdom, looking for creature comfort only, eat, sleep, reproduce, remove waste, die. What kind of birth is that? Animal, right? So the mind of an animal, body human. Our body is past karma. This animal mind, present karma. Then when we die, human body is gone. Animal mind left behind. Animal mind is reborn. Animal mind attracts animal body. That's how it happens. Or something can happen in his life itself. This person behaves like that. And you find it very difficult to communicate with this person, especially an addict, you know. Someone who's caught up with something, can never have enough pleasure in it. So human body, but the mind of a preta. So when the shelf life of the body is gone, the mind continues on into a preta form. And the other person is violent, exploitative, measuring people, how much are you useful to me? Using people for their purposes and aims. No love. Asura mentality. Human body, asura mind. So when this person dies, the human body is gone, the asura mind continues in that form. Then you have this fourth kind of person, very violent, bloodthirsty, killer. He has a mind of a hell being. And when he dies, human body is gone, the mind of hell being continues, he continues as a hell being. So be careful what we perceive in life. So how do we perceive correctly so that we don't get into trouble? Page 130. This is on my right hand side. There are three kinds of perversion that be careful of. This is mentioned in the Vipallasa Sutta, page 130. Perversion or distortion, Vipallasa. These are three things you have to watch out. The perversion of perception, or if you like, you can say misperceiving. Okay? Sanya Vipallasa. The perversion of thought, Chitta Vipallasa. And the perversion of view, Ditti Vipallasa. And each of these three perversions occur in the same four fundamental ways. But regarding what is impermanent to be permanent, regarding what is painful to be pleasant, what is non-self to be self, and what is foul as beautiful, or what is bad to be good. The example is given here, the explanation. I'm reading from page 131. The perversion of perception is the most rudimentary of the three, arising at the sense doors through habitual reactivity to sense experiences. Right? So this is called Sanya Vipalasa occurs at the sense doors, especially the five sense doors, where we experience things on a daily basis. The perversion of thought mounts over these rudimentary projections like a child preoccupied with video game. Right? So five senses, we experience things to the five senses, then the mind starts thinking about them. That is the second one. Third one, perversion of view, finally shapes these projections into a definitive idea or dogma. The most famous and ancient Indian philosophical example is given here. So how the three personal perversions work together as a set. One, a person perceives a coil of rope lying in the half-light so that it appears to be a snake. So he sees a coil in the dark or half-light, think it's a snake. Why? Because he already has an idea of a snake in his mind. Actually, he's never seen a snake before, he doesn't know what a snake is, he'll never think the rope is a snake. Right? Two, he thinks that what he has seen is actually a snake. So at first he thinks it's like a snake. Then second level, it is a snake, okay, in his mind. Then third level, he considers or he concludes that it is a snake and either flees in panic or hits it with a stick. React. Right? So this is how perception works. We have an idea, we project onto what we see outside of us. So we have to be aware of this. So this is why loving kindness is very important. Suppose you have loving kindness, you say, okay, let me see, this looks like a snake. You see a coil of rope, you say it looks like a snake. But then your metta training, loving kindness training, say, oh, it's okay, there's a special metta for snakes, May all these big snakes, all the names, Arapata and so on, Arapataka and so on, may they be well and happy. So may this snake be well and happy. If you say that, you unconditionally accept it. But then as you watch, as you look, your eyes adjust to the darkness, you see it's not moving at all. Then you look closely, it's not a snake. Wisdom arises. That's one way to talk about loving kindness. So do reflect on this. I'm only giving a summary here. This is a very important teaching here on the three kinds of perversions. So we must have some level of cognitive training. We must learn to see things correctly. Sometimes people can be angry with us or do stupid things. We try to understand what's going on. What is in the mind of this person? What really is happening is going on here. Try not to make it bigger than it is. And then deal with it, correct it. Now on page 132, it's a bit of detailed list of suttas and different kinds of perceptions. This is where the perception is a kind of meditation. For example, reflecting on death is a kind of reflection. So you want to know different kinds of perception, like perception of impermanence, that you can see is found in various references given on the right-hand side. Suffering and impermanence, non-self in suffering, foulness, death, loathsomeness of food, not delighting in all the world, perception of danger, perception of impermanence in all formations, all things that exist, perception of letting go, dispassion, cessation, and then mindfulness of breath. All these are regarded as perception, right? Interestingly, even breath is regarded as perception, because when you look at the breath, especially when in beginner's class we have counting stage, in-out stage, and so on. So as long as you perceive it as numbers or as in-out, it's perception. So it's a kind of beginning in our practice. And now we come to one of the most important of the perception suttas, page 134. Anicca Sanya Sutta, the discourse or the perception of impermanence discourse. The perception of the impermanent discourse. Okay, this is the one that we're telling about, where the Buddha guarantees us regarding attaining streaming. Let's read it in full. It's a very short sutta. The sutta reference is S25.6. I often quote to you 25.1, right? Now there are 10 suttas, a set of 10 suttas in this chapter. It's called the, what is that? Okanti Wagga. Okanti Sanyutta. Okanti Sanyutta, the collected teachings on the descent. Here, Okanti descent is descent going into a boat. You got to go back to a bit of Indian culture here, or you got to go to Pulau Ubin, where there's a boat beside a river. You stand on the bank, you go down to the boat, not the big ships in Kapal Harbor. Because the little boats, you got to go down to the boat. So the special word for that is Okanti. You descend. We say turun kapal, you descend into the boat. Yeah? And this is a code word for attaining stream winning. So next time whenever you descend into a boat, you should be very happy. Say, oh, it's like stream winning. And the boat moves down the stream, right? So the 10 suttas. Now we're going to look at number 6, Anicca Sanya Sutta. And this is found in SD 17.4 brackets 10 is the SD number. At Savatthi, there the person once said, Bhikshus, the perception of form is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Okay, here, whatever you see, regarded as impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. There are 3 aspects here. Got to remember. Number 1, impermanent. Impermanent is a general state, subjective, never lasting for long. Changing, it means becoming other, something else. Becoming otherwise, it becomes something that you don't expect. Right? What you expect will not happen. So impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Now this is how I define it. Now better still is, don't worry about how I define it. Look at these 3 words, impermanent, changing, otherwise. You know the meaning of it. At least you think you know. Take it at that, trust yourself. And you go on reflecting on whatever, all the forms you see around you. Impermanent, changing, otherwise. One day something clicks. You say, oh, now I understand why the Buddha uses 3 words, 3 adjectives here. Changing, impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Because this experience occurred to you right before you, to you, your own experience. Then you have an aha experience, become real to you. And these are the moments I treasure very much, because once I get this kind of experiences, it really empowers me to write a wonderful reflection. I will hold that thought and use it to write some kind of happy reflection, or spiritual reflection. Okay, let's continue reading. The perception of sound is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Sound is very easy to reflect. You hear sound, it's impermanent, because sound must change. And in between every note there is a space, because there's no space, there's no music. There is music not because of the notes, There's music because of the silence in between the spaces, in the spaces of the notes. That gives us a sense of change. That's music. And it becomes otherwise. Modulation, changing. So next time you listen to music, especially soothing music, you listen to it, it's pleasurable, yes, but you can also notice the impermanence of it. Just lose yourself, so to speak, in the impermanence of sound. Okay? This is where sometimes the name of Kuan Yin is interpreted in a mystical way as representing perception of sound. One means to pay attention to, respond to, yin sound. So that's one way of understanding nature of yin. The perception of taste is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. So when you chew your food next time, mindfully chew. Don't talk to people, don't do anything, just focus on the chewing. And you find this food is really well digested. You know, they say that if you really chew your food that way, you need to eat less, but you get more, so to speak. Some people, they eat a lot, but a lot is wasted. They didn't chew it properly, it's not properly digested. And as you chew, you notice the taste changing and so on. Notice when you eat. I normally would take a spoonful of plain rice and just chew it very nice. And after that, all the other tastes start coming in, you find that taste change. So you can reflect on change in taste. The perception of touch. The perception of smell, I messed up. The perception of smell is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Again, you enter a temple, you have this very nice smell. But after a while, you find the smell is gone, there's no more smell. And you got like to take a deep breath again. Why? Because when the smell touches the part of your nose, after that it's numb, right? No more feeling. You've got to get more smell molecules to touch other part of your sensitive part of your nose. So that only in change you begin to notice, oh yes, incense smell, flower smell. So notice that. And then the taste, perception of touch is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. Here touch means the temperature, for example, maybe you sit in a chair too long, feel the perception of contact touch. The last number 6 is very tricky. The perception of mind object is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. So next time you are thinking, observe the way you are thinking. It's a bit tricky, this one. Or another way is, when you are distracted in your meditation, try to notice your thoughts, how the thoughts arise and pass away. And see, if you can, where one thought ends and a new thought begins. Right? So you can notice impermanence there. So this is practicing the observation of impermanence in the 6 sense objects. Then comes the set passages. This is the same in all the 10 suttas. The Buddha's guarantee. Section 4. Bhikshus, the one who has faith thus, who firmly believes this truth, or who is convinced of this truth, is called a faith follower. So in other words, if you say, I can accept this, sensible enough, you have faith in this thing, so you're called a faith follower. He has entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of the superior persons, gone beyond the plane of the worldlings. Who are the worldlings? The worldlings are those caught up with breaking precepts, and the next slide they fall into the subhuman state. Or even in this slide itself, they may fall into the subhuman state. So if you say, I have faith in this, and meaning you also hold this idea in your mind, this perception of impermanence in the 6th sense object, you are called a faith follower. You may not be a stream winner yet. In fact, Buddha Gosha tried to name it, call it a Chula Sotapanna, a lesser stream winner. No? In other words, if you hold this thought regularly, you're a faith follower, you have entered this course of rightness. In other words, next paragraph, he is incapable of doing any intentional deed by which he might be reborn in hell, in the animal birth, or in the ghost realm, that is the Preta realm. He is incapable of dying without having attained the fruit of stream winning. Okay? So here, in other words, you will habitually try your best never to break the precepts. Occasionally, yes, you may accidentally break the precept, but you will never willingly, happily do it. So if you are capable of that, in other words, habitually you have this positive thought of impermanence, then definitely in this life itself you will attain stream winning, if not at the moment of passing away. Because why? At the moment of passing away, the momentum, what kind of momentum will take over? The kind of karma you regularly think of or do, you see? Your habitual karma. And your habitual karma is impermanent. Impermanence, you reflect on impermanence. So this impermanence, perception and impermanence will take over and gently push you into streaming. Or the other choice, the other training, the truth follower. Bhikshus, one who accepts these truths after pondering over them with some wisdom thus is called a truth follower. So you study suttas, you do research, you ask questions, you investigate, maybe you're a scientist, and you notice all this impermanence. You see science documentaries. Same, you have entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of superior persons, gone beyond the plane of worldlings. He is incapable of doing any intentional deed by which he might be reborn in hell, or in the animal birth of the ghost realm, including Asura realm also. He is incapable of dying without having attained the fruit of stream again. Right? In fact, my feeling is this, my faith is this, if you have the strength to come here to sit sutta class regularly, I don't think you would ever enjoy breaking the precepts. I don't think you would make a habit of breaking the precepts, for example, right? I think one reason people don't have to come to sutta class is they're reminded of the precepts they have broken. But the point is, that's how you strengthen yourself, by being reminded not to do it. So my point here is, if you're a Buddhist, what is your aim in life? Your aim in life should be to get out of suffering. Get out of suffering means you face suffering directly, look it in the eye, you're able to deal with it. And being able to deal with it, you're happy, you're filled with loving kindness, and you are able to help others. A lot of people have this wrong idea. They just say, end suffering, and full stop, they don't say anything more. So people who are not Buddhists think, oh, Buddhists are so negative, think only of suffering. But they don't realize that Buddhists also talk a lot about love. We have one retired Anglican priest in class at one point. He could be a Buddhist or could be an Anglican spy, I don't know. But anyway, we still welcome him. I'm not talking the way I'm talking to you, and I mentioned love and loving kindness again and again. He says, hey, we Christians talk like that too. I told him, I said, but Buddhists are older. I said, Buddhists are older. We are much older. No, he thinks that we copy from them. I said, you look at the suttas, Buddha talks about spiritual friendship, loving kindness, and the Buddha says, through me as your spiritual friend, you'll be able to overcome suffering. It's a very personal statement. A lot of teachers do not know these passages. And those foreign monks and nuns who come here somehow don't tell us these wonderful passages. They just make us chant those magical suttas, Metta Sutta, Mangala Sutta, Ratana Sutta for protection. But these suttas are more than just protection. This protection thing is a Brahminical thing. If you have your meditation, you are protecting yourself already. There's a very wonderful story here in the Samyutta. You have this teacher and a student, the acrobats. So the teacher told the student, now in our trade, it's a bit dangerous, got to climb all these high poles. So I will look after you, you look after me, okay, so that we don't fall. This student is very wise. The student told the teacher, I said, teacher, I think it's better. You look after yourself, I look after myself. So there you are, that's the Buddha's wisdom there, Right? Other religions say, I'll take care of you. So you say, no thank you, I'll take care of myself. Right? It's just like, other religions say, oh, my Savior will save you, he's the lifesaver. My reply is, no thank you, I'd rather learn swimming myself. So if I'm in trouble with the water, I'm strong enough to swim, I swim against the current, I get back to the beach. Isn't it better to learn yourself, right? So that you're safe. Then you can also be a lifesaver if you want. Everyone self-saving, lifesaver also. Basically here we're talking about life, we're talking about personal effort is possible. Isn't it a wonderful message? So we got to see Buddhism as a whole, not just take one aspect and say, oh, Buddha doesn't know this, doesn't know that, but one of those critics. No? And then in the last part of this sutta, the Buddha defines a stream winner. It says, one who knows and sees this truth is called a stream winner, no longer bound for the lower world, sure of liberation, destined for awakening. So that's the closing passage. So do reflect on all these suttas. Yeah? Now, any questions so far?
Page 125 just now.
One, sorry?
125.
125.
5 concurs, I think.
Yes.
Then how does it, the Asura is not mentioned?
Yeah.
The narration is the 6 realms. These are only 5.
Yeah, in the early suttas, only 5 are mentioned. It's called the Panchagati. 5 goings or 5 destinations.
So where does Asura fit in?
Asura fit in Deva world.
Huh?
Strangely, they are put in under Deva world.
Deva world.
Yeah, because Asura means anti-gods. A plus Asura. Yeah. So in other words, they were originally gods, but because of their misbehavior, they fell from that state. So this is the story found in the suttas. So they're not given a separate class. And then in the later Buddhism, post-Buddha Buddhism, they say, oh, why don't we give them a separate class, and everything became more systematic, you know? Yeah. So the 6 ranks are later idea. But it's a useful idea.
But this fall from grace thing, isn't it a little bit like the famous angel who become the devil, so to speak, in Christianity?
Yeah, the kind of motive is common in other religions too. Because, of course, in Buddhism, we don't usually talk of bad devas, because devas are happy. So they're happy, they will never do bad stuff. They may be filled with desire, though, the lower devas. The devas in the sense world. Devas in the formless world, they are happily enjoying jhanas. Arupa world, the formless world, even more profound. Those in the sense world are often spoken as enjoying sexual pleasures, because they are all the time happy. But it is also stated that once the devas die, they go straight to karma. Go straight to the lower worlds. And usually they mention they go to suffering state, to the karma stage. Unless they are saints, streamliners, for example, or the higher saints, then their karma will somehow continue in other realms until the karma finishes on they are not reborn. You know, I've been watching some very interesting science documentaries, the series called Through the Wormhole, where they talk about all this, the way physicists see the world, space and time and so on. It makes me understand a little bit more how to talk about nirvana. You know, we often think of nirvana as a place, or we want to think of nirvana like heaven. You know, we try to make as close as possible something we can understand. That is why our vision of Sukhavati is very popular. You know, Amitabha's Western Paradise and so on. But that's the closest you can get in a very colorful way of thinking of nirvana. But I think the physicists, if you learn physics and quantum physics especially, you probably have a better, you can have a better conceptual idea of what nirvana is like. Because whatever exists in space and time, right? So imagine there is no space and time. How can you imagine this? It's pretty interesting. So this is where physics come in. Huh? So you can, because when the Buddha talks about nirvana, for example, in the Udana, he would say, nirvana is something, there's no coming, no going, no here, no there, and nothing in between. This is a quantum physics language almost. So that is why it's not easy to talk about nirvana, especially with people who are so carried away with daily life, enjoying social pleasures. I think there are lots of people that can talk about nirvana to them. We talk about keeping precepts to them, being happy, that's good enough. So in order to understand nirvana, you must have some kind of very rich conceptual mind, and the physicist's mind is excellent, right? And that's as far as thought goes, of course. The real thing, we don't want to get to. But from what the Buddha has put into words, it's definitely something very interesting and profound and happy. Okay. Any other question?
Sorry, why the devas descend straight into the house?
Okay, let's say you go for a holiday, you're not working, you're spending your savings, that's your merit, and the longer you go on a holiday, the more you spend. And you've got to go back and work, right? So, but here, the heavenly world is really high consumption merit, right? So once the merit is gone, there's a snake and ladder thing. So you play snake and ladder and say, wow, this game becomes so real, when you study the Dharma, even snake and ladder become meaningful. You can go up next to you go down. So it goes up and down, up and down. And once you fall into the subhuman plane, it's very difficult to get back into the human plane.
So it's better to be reborn in the human plane?
Definitely, yes. So we do value the human birth. Okay. On the other hand, I do feel sometimes we can help other beings, like especially animals we keep at home, or pets. You find they're at peace. So if your cat and your dog or animals you train can be at peace, even sometimes wild animals, tigers and lions, they have been trained somehow, but you've got to really take care of them. And they assume almost human character. And as I said before many times, I have lots of cats, and the couple of occasions, even a dog once, when they die, they come to you. And it's almost they're trying to communicate with you. They're lying there whimpering and then they die. And when you touch them, they feel good, they feel comfortable, they die peacefully. And there is a traditional belief, if you really love your animals and you let them die happily like that, they'll be reborn in the heavens of the 33. It's one of the very, very low sense heavens, not very high. And they live happily there. I suppose they become your guardian angels if they remember you. So you have to treat them well, because so you are nasty with them, they won't be kind to you. So it's a good thought. I've written a reflection on this, animals go to heaven. I think it's a wonderful thought. I based this reflection on various stories of animals that died happily in the Buddha's time. The Buddha's horse, for example, Kantaka, passed away, see the master renouncing, and passed away, was reborn in heaven at 53. And the monkey and the other elephant that served the Buddha in the Parilaya forest also reborn in heaven at 33. So treat your pets well. Any other question? Yes?
On the perversion of perception, I want to tell you a short story.
Okay.
Last year I was in Chiang Rai, and of course, among other things, we went to a snake show.
Sorry,
Snake show.
Snake show.
Snake show. 2 or 3 handlers and lots of cobras. So there were about 15 of us, and more than half of them women. So we were seated on benches, tiered benches, like level 3 levels. So during the show, one of the handlers went to the back of the bench and using a bamboo pole, touched one of the ladies' heels, screamed like that. Because this perception is there is a snake place, anything that touches it must be a snake.
Yeah, exactly.
But the best part was near the end of the show, they distracted the audience, and then somebody threw something into the audience. All of them were caught up and ran away.
And what is that? A rope? That's a nice story. You should have told me earlier.
But I stayed still, partly because of 2 reasons.
Right.
First, I knew they wouldn't throw a sack at you.
Okay.
Nobody would do that.
No,
It's
it's
too
a
dangerous.
yeah, true.
But secondly, my guide beforehand, he warned me, be careful of the rope.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And locally, I want to give you another example. Sometimes when I drive on the expressways, I tend to go 5 or 10 kilometers on top of the speed limit.
Okay.
So always watch the rear view mirror, always.
All right.
So sometimes you see somebody with a white shirt, black pants, and white helmet, especially white helmet. immediately slow down.
Okay.
Because the perception is there. But when he passes you, it's just one of these ordinary motorcyclists. Some of these motorcyclists, they take delight in dressing up.
Oh, okay.
just to
Okay. Well, that's good. In Singapore, you must have like that Canadian program. What do you call that? They make fun of people and stuff like that.
Yeah. Gags.
Gags, yeah. You've got to laugh a bit more. You're sometimes so serious.
But it shows that when you are in a certain situation, your mind is tuned to that situation, and then your thought changes.
Yeah, that's perception. Yeah, that's an example of perception. So, so now the next thing we reflect on this, examine how does it all work, and then try to tune ourselves correctly.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other question or feedback? So we finished on page 136, right? Oh, in fact, we
Finish the book.
actually we finished everything. And the thing of it, just nice, just nice.
Finish everything.
Yeah, just nice.
You finish the whole book already?
No, the whole book, just the chapter. Perception. So next week next lesson we go to a sutta, a bit of like by way of revision. You can see there's a very interesting diagram on page 141 and 142. So a couple of suttas, and then we go on to formations, sankhara, which is a very tricky one. Okay, let's close for today. It's a short reflection. So finish our study on the perception, sanya. This is to remind us that our life is full of perceptions, how we see things, recognize things, or think we recognize them. So this is an awareness how our minds play tricks on us, or we getting tricked ourselves. So this is where self-knowledge arises. If we understand this, then we also understand the possibility of self-knowledge. If we understand the possibility of self-knowledge, it also means we can heal ourselves, help ourselves, liberate ourselves. This is very important knowledge in terms of the Dharma. By the power of such positive thoughts, may we be free from suffering in this life itself. May our minds focus when we meditate. Above all, may we attain spiritual liberation in this stream in this life itself. In this peaceful moment in our lives, let us send our loving kindness to all those people we know, especially those who are suffering in difficulties, that they may be well and happy and be uplifted from their sufferings and difficulties. And to those who are far away from the Dharma, that they may come closer to the Dharma. Let us send our loving kindness to our loved ones, wherever they are. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.